Okay, so back to Mishlei 23, this quartet of pesukim. Gam ele lachachamim hakir panim b'mishpat bal tov. Also, these are for the wise. Recognizing faces, which we say is like showing favoritism in judgment, is not good. Omer la Rasha tzadikata. So if you say to a Rasha, when it says to a evil or a guilty person, I think in the mishpat it's you translate as guilty. Tzadikata, you are a tzadik, or you're righteous or innocent. Yikvuhu amim. Nations will curse him, yizamuhu le'umim, and regimes will be furious with him. V'lamelchichim yinan. But for rebukers, it will be pleasant. V'aleihim tavu birkas hatov, and on them will come a blessing of good. Sefasayim yishak meshiv dvarim nechokim. He will kiss the lips of one who responds with verified words. We don't really know how to translate that whole last part. Okay, our questions were manifold. Well, not really. I mean, our questions were on everything now. So what do we learn from the preface of Gam Ele Lachachamim? Why don't we just state the proverbs? Okay. And yeah, plain shot is that they're from that they're a different collection of proverbs, but like who, does this add to our understanding? 2 is 24 the same case as 23? In other words, is showing favoritism in judgment just another way of describing one who says to a Rasha he's a tzaddik, or is it two separate like actions? Also another question we didn't ask, is this also true for one who calls a tzaddik a Rasha, right? You would think that that's also, so why doesn't it mention that? Okay, then we have, why does he even need to say, Hakir Panim B'mishpat Bal Tov? Right? Why would a chacham do that? Why would a chacham show favoritism in judgment? What's the havamina, or what's the temptation? I guess 5. I should say something. I was thinking about methodology really quickly. I wasn't thinking really quickly. I was thinking about methodology. But we start off every day too by reviewing the questions. Okay. There's 2 purposes to that. Okay. One is to refresh our actual memory, but the other is it's a different. To me, I class this differently than refreshing memory. Is reactivating lines of intuition that might have been dormant based on the direction of the discussion yesterday. So, like, I feel like I don't sense this here, but I feel like a person could, like, let's say, like, this doesn't happen, thank God. But people, like, let's say, like, oh, I'll come late on the second day because, like, it doesn't really matter. He's just going to review this thing in the beginning. But review is not just for the intellectual content. It's getting the creative juices flowing, and you do, and like when we asked the questions, we were seeing the pasuk for the first time. Then we had the discussion. When you see the questions again, then it's a different. You relate to the questions differently. And the reason why I'm bringing this up now is because part of being successful in learning also is setting up good habits and routines. So the habit of writing down the questions serves 2 purposes. And so when you set up your, like, this is just something that you got to think about when you're doing, setting up your own learning, your own fabrusas and stuff, of like setting things up to maximize even like benefits that seem trivial, but could like make a huge difference in the way that your mind goes the next day. So just wanted to express that. Okay. 5, what is the consequence in Chaf Daled of people cursing him? Why nations and regimes as opposed to individuals? What is the difference between cursing and, as Alter says, anathemizing? Why do we care about this? The consequences seem too far reaching to be of concern, right? Nations. Okay, 6, what is 25 saying? How will it be pleasant for rebukers? What is the it? What is the blessing? How does it come about? Who are the rebukers here? Okay, basically we don't know anything about these pesukim. 26, what is Chavav saying? What is the mashal? What's the nimshal of kissing? Is it even kissing? Is it pursing your lips? Who is kissing who and how and why? Who is the subject? 8, what is the unified idea from this whole cluster? 9, who is the audience? Is it any chachamim, or is it those who are appointing judges? As we saw in the Isser of Lo Sakiru Panim, is to the people who are appointing the judges. Is it the judges themselves? And then how is Hakaras Panim the opposite of Tochacha? What's the unity and the what are the opposites here? Okay, so we had a couple approaches that we were developing yesterday. The one I remember the clearest was Isaac's. Do you want to say, or you want me to say? Oh, okay, so Isaac's approach was really, this is talking about after the judgment is made, right? And you go up to the person who got the guilty verdict, and you try to make him feel that he was really innocent, or that he really should have been like vindicated, And what that does is it undercuts the integrity of the justice system, and it will have ramifications in terms of how they relate, how the immediate Russia relates to the din, but also how people relate to the judgments in general. Like it's a very, very destructive thing. We said that this could be applied in other areas, like when two siblings are fighting and a parent, invokes a disciplinary measure, and then afterwards says, like really you were right, but it's just it messes with the justice system in a bad way. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say I think one of there's probably many reasons why a person might want to do this, but I think one of the reasons is feeling like oh, the person's going to be upset about this, and so they got the guilty verdict.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to comfort them.
Right.
And then really what you're doing is fueling their indignation.
Right. Yeah. Fueling. Right. Yeah. You're fueling their indignation and reinforcing their victim status, and it's bad. Yeah. Ariel, did you have an approach that we yesterday that was
cut short?
You did this cut short. I forgot who else had. I knew you had an approach.
I did have an approach.
Yeah.
I'm just
refresh my memory.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
It was based on it being appointed judges rather than the judges.
Okay, right, correct,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So in other words, this is saying that if you appoint judges, if you violate those shiur by appointing judges who are not qualified, that will result in them producing these bad verdicts, which will have an effect on the justice in the nation. And I forgot if we theorized about like outside of the nation. I know Sean had an idea about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, what Sean gave that idea,
Yeah.
I like because I think it was compatible with what I was
Right. So remind me again of the regimes were more of a political entity, and then nations were like the natural populace, and that there's going to be a resentment from within in terms of the just the sensing the injustice of the verdict, but there's also going to be a resentment from the other people in the political system by seeing that you're just playing politics and you're not really like relating to this in terms of its purpose. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah. And then David, your approach, which I had a criticism of, but what was it again?
Okay, so that was before the judgment is happening, or before like these two people come in opposition.
Yeah.
That you start just some sort of like simple, just showing like nice, like pleasantries to one person and not nice to the other person.
Right.
And that's going to prime them to then one person will now start acting more comfortably, more in that good favor. One person is going to be acting less comfortably in less favor.
Right.
That's going to then sway or mess up the
Right.
in opposition.
So that was definitely consistent with what we read about lo shiur panim in chapter 21 of the Rambam. And then I think my criticism was I felt that it was a stretch to say that extends to Omer l'Rasha Tzadigata. Yeah. I was like, okay, sure.
It's that the pasuk is saying it's like as if you were saying to the
right
side by like the way that you're talking to him makes him feel that way, and also makes the talk like you think of Russia,
yeah.
And so
okay, I'm more warmed up to the idea. Now the next question would be what about the mochichim? Like mochichim, is that going to also extend to doing the opposite? Because I would say the opposite of what you're describing is treating them equally, right? Yeah. Whereas mochiach to me seems to imply specifically talking to the person who actually is guilty of something. You
could say it's that's like the Mishnah that when they come in, you're supposed to treat them both like Rishayim.
Yeah. Right. That's interesting. Okay, that's good. You could by the way, you could also say that these two pesukim are not to be joined to the first two. Like you could learn them independently. Yeah, Oren?
Does the word mishpat have to have such a, I don't know if this is a word, but like jurisprudential context? Yeah,
it doesn't have to, but I think, or let me put it this way. It could be beyond that, but I think it has to at least have that. Like in other words, we will learn this to be about anyone who is in a position of judging someone, but I think it has to be true for judges as well. Like if you came up with an idea that say it was about like how we lay people judge other people,
yeah,
I'd be fine with that. But if it didn't work out for the justice system, then I'd say that that's a flaw in the idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah, David and then Sean.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if this is what you're saying, but your question about the mochichim.
Yeah.
So maybe it just is like a whatever it was for Calvin, like a no BS type of thing.
Yeah. Let me just actually repeat that in case anyone didn't catch it. Is that when do you remember which mission it is?
It's Aleph Chet, I think.
Aleph Chet. Okay. Do you get a rush of dopamine just then? No. Okay. Oops, I'm in the wrong place. Mishnah, Aleph.
Yes.
Okay. Aleph. Okay, sorry, David, to cut you off. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
I'm not familiar with this one either.
Okay. Yeah. Yehuda ben Tabai, V'Shimon ben Shatach, Kiblu mehem. Yehuda ben Tabai Omer, Kol al ta'as atzmacha orche hadayanim. Don't make yourself like orche hadayanim. I don't remember what orche hadayanim means. Do you know?
So there's like I think there's a few different explanations. I think actually
Does it matter for our purposes or not really?
I think the idea that I said,
Yeah.
I think it is Rebuke says something similar
Yeah.
about that.
So it's like lawyers.
Yeah.
Okay, like people who like articulate the tainas in front of the judges. Oh, okay, interesting. So that's what Isaac was saying. When the litigants are in front of standing in front of you, in front of the judges, they should be in your eyes like Rishayim, meaning they should be like guilty, not like evildoers. But when they depart from before you after the din, they should be like their zakai, when they accept the din upon themselves. Okay, yeah, Doug, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I think with that, and then the can just be like that, no BS, like not playing around,
Yeah.
being like very tight on them as far as like actually like a persecution of judgment.
Yeah.
Them being very tough on that.
Okay, I think that's a viable approach. All right, that would satisfy my complaints. No, that's not the word. My reservations. Yeah, Sean.
Yeah. So also for the lemuchithim,
Yeah.
let me know if this is a valid read. So at the end of 24, we're essentially saying that this is going to be a really bad thing for this person to do, to
Yeah.
be saying you're a righteous person to a person who's actually not.
Yeah.
Right. So then can we say that for the people who then respond to that, who rebuke him, that his action is going to be good for them and that it's going to create like all these blessings for them? So it's saying if this happens, you should be a rebuker, and as a result, you're going to get a bunch of
Okay,
great
so
things.
just make sure I get the pronouns. So the guy who rebukes the person who's going to appoint bad judges.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was actually there's another question which we didn't articulate, which is on the consequence, which is why is the opposite, or I guess what do we make of the fact? What do we make of the fact that the benefits listed in the other pesukim aren't what's the word? Symmetrical, right? So you are addressing this question, which is, I mean, on the like, first of all, you're going to prevent the curses from befalling the nation by your rebuking. And then what is you're also taking a stance on what the bracha is on the person who rebukes, or are you
fully figure that
okay,
out.
fine. All right. So, but I like the approach though. That would be a consistent read. Yeah.
Yeah, I have another way of reading or framing the pesukim.
Yeah.
I wonder maybe if you could say that, like, like the first couple of pesukim, it may not necessarily be talking about the appointer. It may not necessarily be like a Russian or like a bad guy.
Right.
He could actually be a guy like, I don't know, like in line with the system, but he just has this one thing that like he just wants to.
Or he might think that this is good for the system, right?
Or he might think this is good, right? Exactly. So maybe you could say that like the second half of the pasuk, what it means with the chokim, yinam, and all these people is that you're gonna have people opposing you.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have people, going against your system because for whatever reason, it doesn't matter what it is, and you're kind of encouraging them by giving them more ammunition to go against you for a legitimate reason. And I was like,
I lost it midway. Who's giving who more ammunition?
The appointee who is in line with the system is giving the opposers who are not in line with the system legitimate ammunition to go against the system, which is the Birkas Tov.
I'm for some reason I'm lost. Can anyone else explain?
All right.
Are you saying if it's still within the appointing bad judges?
Yeah, someone who appoints a bad judge.
Right.
Right. Because of his, bad appointment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He is making a mistake in the system.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And the opposers will be very critical of him.
The people who oppose his appointments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Will be critical of him.
Critical
Of
of
the
the
appointer,
leadership,
right,
of the appointer, of his actions, of whatever decision he made.
Yeah.
And it turns out that that's a pretty good legitimate to be, to go against him because that was a bad decision to make versus any other arbitrary bad reason to appoint someone. You just whatever.
Right.
So like that's a breakfast toe.
So that's what in line with Sean's approach, right?
Is that?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think you need to go the route that it's appointing judges. I mean, I think you could read it that a person is trying to use his position as a person with an authority to skew things and show favoritism in order to curry favor with people.
Yeah.
What happens though, eventually, is that people are going to find out about this.
Yeah.
So they're not going to trust him as a person within his appointed position.
Yeah.
So he loses the power of the people.
Yeah.
And he also loses the support of the people who are alongside him because he's currying favor and clearly maneuvering politically, and they're not going to trust him.
Yeah.
And then the person who then fights against him, he's going to, because now everyone hates him, he's going to gain the support of everyone who hates this person, and he's going to get a lot of blessings.
Yeah, I have an application of that, by the way, that when I, which is related to applications, when I was teaching, well, I guess even beyond shall have it, but when I write letters of recommendation for people, when people ask me to write letters of recommendation, then I do, especially for like schools and seminaries and, like camps and stuff, I do say, okay, one of the conditions is I'm going to be honest. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be like, here are 10 pages of this person's faults, but like, I was aware of the fact that when I was in school, when I was teaching a Shalhavit, I would be writing lots of letters of recommendation to seminaries. And believe it or not, there are teachers who really hold that you shouldn't write about the problems with the student. And I think that's horrible because it's, the school needs to know who the student is to see if they're a fit. And if you're concealing information or you're only painting like this good picture, it might be bad for the student, it's going to be bad for the school. But for me, from a Mishlei standpoint, it's going to undermine my credibility that people are going to see that, he's just going to say good stuff about all the students that he writes letters of recommendation for. And like, I don't want to have that. I want the heads of these seminaries to be able to trust me that I'm going to actually paint an accurate, image of who I'm recommending. Yeah.
I just want to say, I had a thought that I think in line with what Mario was saying.
Sure, and then we're going to go to the Meiri.
Yeah. When you appoint judges who are crooked, it's not only are they going to give bad judgments, but there are always going to be people who are against the system, against the justice system, against rebellious in some way, and this gives them a legitimate platform to stand on. They can say, look, the justice system is corrupt here. Look at this guy.
Right.
And when they say that, it's going to be like, yeah, you're right. That was completely unjust.
Right.
Yeah,
and all it takes,
that's what I was.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And so it's saying it's going to be pleasant for them.
Okay. So that's
that's exactly.
Okay,
that's exactly what I was trying to. Yeah.
So but Rebuke a tov though.
They're gonna like it's. Meaning they're going to be successful with their
so it's not objective tov, it's
for
them. That's interesting. So I like that consequence, right? In other words, and this is the scary thing, all you need is one instance of it for people to question the integrity of the entire thing. That's why this is such a destructive thing. That's bad. That hits me right in the Mishlei.
Just the last pasuk, he will purse his lips with the verified words. Like that's the guy who's not like the guy who pursing his lips is the first guy in the first couple pesukim, because like he's now seeing the consequences of their verified words.
So you're saying pursing his lips in like pain?
Yeah,
it's interesting. Okay, it's it's hard also, by the way, that Yishak. I only know the usage of kiss, so I don't really know because you can't purse your lips in like consternation, but exactly. Right. So I hear that reading. I just don't know if it fits, but that's good. Okay. All right. So let's do the Meiri. Meiri thankfully does provide us with a full picture here. Okay. Meiri says, Amar gam ele hadavarim, also these statements, him he'ara, these are a lesson, l'chachamim hashoftim. Okay, so this is not all chachamim, this is for the chachamim who are judging. That makes sense given the context. After rebuking the son in the previous dozens of pesukim. Uvichlal tochachto tochachas kol hatalmidim, and included in that tochacha is a tochacha of all the talmidim, which I don't know if like we missed that in Meiri, but I feel like that's important to know that all those rebukes for the son were for talmidim also. Like I don't think we were thinking about it that way, you know. Nasan he'ara lechachamim hashoftim. Now he's giving a lesson to the chachamim who judge. Uvichlalam gam hashleimim ha'melamdim l'hoyel, and also to those who are perfected who teach in order to benefit. So this is now advice. She's saying the previous one was advice for sons and students. This is now advice for chachamim who judge and for teachers. Okay. Ukvar bi'arnu, we've already explained in where does it say 47? In 15:7. Wow, that was early. That in many places, methodology, that in many places the pasuk will set forth a negation in place of an obligation. It'll say not good instead of saying it's evil. So he's saying it really is saying that it's evil, right? In other words, don't think that because it says it's not good, that somehow means that it's like a lesser offense. You know, it really means it is evil. It's just stylistically he's saying Baal Tov. You know, he might be saying Baal Tov because of the Birkas HaTov at the end, not according to your reading or Isaac's reading, but like that this is not good. But if you want the Birkas HaTov, then this is what you should do, and that would explain why stylistically he would be framing it as good or not good. So it's saying that showing favoritism and judgment to honor one of them over the one who's opposite him. So that's like David was saying. Lo tov val ra. It's not good, but it's bad. You're going to istatamu means to stop up, right? Yeah. So what does that mean? You're gonna.
It means it's not gonna like really the guy who you're not showing favoritism to.
Yeah.
It's gonna stop him from being able to really express himself.
Interesting. Oh, I got a movie recommendation. Is it called the Chicago 7 or the Chicago 8? Chicago 7. Okay, so first of all, it's Aaron Sorkin. So brilliant screenplay. But it's Aaron Sorkin doing a courtroom drama. True story. The best depiction of a corrupt judge I've ever seen, and it's a true story. I mean, I'm not sure every detail is true, but like it is. I got to rewatch that actually. It's an amazing thing, and you can feel like how evil this is. And I don't even remember the particulars, but it was a great movie.
Set up the projector downstairs.
Oh, okay. So you're going to basically prevent the ball, you know, one of the litigants from actually like expressing their tainas in a way that will be heard. Maybe the judgment will not come out true. The koshkin. So now he's learning. He's answering a question. Is 20? What are we? 23? Is 23 the same as 24? So he's saying no. He's saying the koshkin imate esadin b'omer larasha rotzlomer ha'roi lihischayev sadigata. All the more so. So the first pasuk was saying don't treat them unequally because that's going to prevent the justice process from being carried out correctly. All the more so if you actually say to the person who's roi to indict, you are tzadik, rotzlomer zakayata, you're innocent. Yikavuhu amim yizamuhu leumim. Everyone will despise him and abominate him, anathemize him. So he's saying that the consequence is just universal disapproval. Okay, I don't even know if he means like other nations, but like he means like everyone is going to like look down on this. Okay, va'amru lamochichim to the rebukers hena teda kilashon tochacha. Okay, now he gives a little discourse on different ways to translate tochacha. And I love when the Meiri does this. Okay, this is why sometimes the Meiri is good to look at before you look at like when you're in the translation phase because it'll give you options. So lashon tochacha ye'amer al panim shonim. It's said in different ways. Pa'amal hadrachas ha'adam bepulos hatovas v'ashara min hapulos haras. Sometimes it's about guiding people for good actions and warning them about bad actions, like hochiach tochiach as misacha. Okay, that's the one we're familiar with. Rebuke. Upam al havikuach. Sometimes it is about argumentation. Sham yashar nochach imo. V'am Yisrael yisvakeach. Okay, that's or like the Ramban's like vikuach, like the disputation. Upam beinin yisurin derech onesh. Sometimes it's about afflictions by way of punishments, like even like divine afflictions. V'hocheach b'machov b'tochachos al avon. Upam al bir ha'inyan. Sometimes it's about clarification of the matter. Osa hochachta. That's like Eliezer, I think. Eved Avram, or whoever the Eved Avram is, like this is the woman who you have like selected out, proven for your servant. Lo yisa lo yesh beinenu mochiach. If there was someone who could clarify among us, v'chein devarim nechochim. Kulam nechochin lemevin. All of them are clarified for the understander. Umizeh amar hena. Here it's talking about that latter meaning. V'la mochichim yinam, to those who mavare ha'emes bedin yinam. To those who clarify the truth in their judgment, it will be pleasant. So we're talking about people who are actually we're not talking about rebukers. We're talking about people who judge correctly and the din comes out true, which is a nice opposite of the people who do bad judgments. The aleim tavo birkas hatov. Went too far. It's just not scrolling. Birkas tov min ha'am. So the people, so now he's answering the question about why it doesn't correspond. The people will give him the birkas hatov. Hefech yichvu amim. The opposite of the nations will curse him. V'amar sfasayim yishak, klomer meshiv devarim nechochim beduno es hadin la'amito. He will restore verified matters through his din of judging correctly. V'lo yate mishpat, and mishpat will not be inclined. Hu nehav etel ha'am b'mesek l'shono. He will be beloved by the people due to the sweetness of his speech. Ilu nashak osam al-sikzem, as if he kissed them with his lips. Okay, so this is just a nice, smooth interpretation in terms of the facts. The question is, what idea do we get? Yeah.
What is this havmina for the judge?
For the havmina of the judge who is inclined to pervert judgment. I still think it could be many different temptations and many different reasons. I don't think it has to be one.
Maybe like you might think that he can do it subtly and then with.
Actually, I take it back. I think he wants this favor. I think he wants people to bless him, and whether that is the. I think that's the most conservative reading given the consequences and the benefits that are being said here. So this guy wants the birkas hatov, and he thinks he can win that, like Sean was saying earlier, like by currying favor through this judgment. It's like you have cases, for example, where this is not saying anything new. It's just I don't really follow the news so much, but I feel like you do have these cases where you see the justices of the United States rendering a judgment that, let's say, like the liberal judges will rule in a way that will be viewed as unfavorable among the left-leaning populace, or the vice versa. And the people will feel like we wanted you to be appointed so you could judge in our favor for our political agendas, but they're going based on constitutional law, and it's got to be very hard for them, to let down their I don't know, you can't call them constituents unless that's the entire United States, they're supporters, but that's an example where it's very tempting to say, okay, well, I'm a liberal progressive judge, and they want me to rule this way, but it goes against the Constitution. So I can't do that. Yeah.
I'd say the reverse, and I think I don't want to get into a discussion about how the political system works, but I think,
or do you? Yeah.
Members of Congress often feel the need to vote along the party line.
Yeah.
Not even if they might personally disagree with it, because they need to get reelected.
Right.
And
right.
And there's this feeling of, I need to use my ability to render a judgment in order to get people to
want
to vote for me.
Yeah.
And then what it ends up causing is a system where it's where people aren't trusting the people to be making judgments.
Yeah. Right. I want to give an example. I think this is an example. I don't think this is just me projecting my own experience into this, but I think part of this. Okay, I'll make a statement about human nature. I'll go wide here. Okay, I do think that there is a part of people that craves objective justice, even though it can turn out in their disfavor, and the experience that I have from that is again, in high school teaching, I had a reputation of being strict but fair and consistent in my principles. For example, the principle was for any homework assignment, then you can redo it for 100% credit, as long as you turn it in on time. If you don't turn it in on time, you automatically get docked a certain number of points, and there's nothing you can do about it, And there'd be students, of course, who would turn it in late, and then complain about the fact that like they don't get an opportunity to like redo it or whatever. But like I set forth my rules very clearly, and and being, there's a certain like when they have adult authority figures who they can manipulate, or who can like be prone to like bribing and like and manipulation like that. So it works out good for them in the short run, but you can't respect somebody like that. And part of you realize like that this is not a stable system. And I think people do crave like stability and objectivity and these parameters. And I think that that's part of why there's going to be a universal condemnation when they see someone who's not like that, and a universal admiration when they do see someone who is like that. Yeah, Isaac?
Yeah, I think like, the reverse is like teachers, there's also like teachers who like give everyone A's for things like that. And I feel like my experience was like, I was happy to get an A, but it didn't feel weird. Like, it felt like there was like something like weird and wacky about it.
Yeah,
I think it would be
right. I think so. Yeah, again, I've said this example before also, but when I was in the dorm, there was only one time I ever got a knas for a minyan, and what happened was my roommate's alarm clock and my alarm clock like somehow like malfunctioned or whatever. And I remember appealing to the dorm counselor, Moshe Menachem Chait, and saying like, look, I never ever miss minyan, and he was like, sorry, like this is the rule, and I admired that, like that, that was a thing, even though I didn't, obviously didn't like paying the knas. So I think that I sense that that's where this is coming from, that there is this appreciation of an objective shofet that people want, even if they don't want the results, Yeah.
There's also the opposite though, where people do appreciate when a person is willing to bend the rules for like extreme extenuating.
Definitely, for extenuating circumstances are I think are different, but I do think when you're the larger scale you're going, then the more damaging it is to do that. But yeah,
it could be that's where the Havamim is stemming from though.
Like, interesting. Yeah, that he sees how people appreciate this kind of bending the rules, and right.
I mean, as long as it seems like it doesn't matter what the rule is, as long as it's like fair and like consistent.
Right.
Without you bending that.
Right. So this is also why, like, this is why in all my rule design things, I make rules that it legislates the rachamim in the rule. Like, let's say like the freebie system in yeshiva is I don't know if that's still a thing with you got a certain like number of freebies for the year, So that's my way of doing that, of like, I understand that there are circumstances that are like, extenuating. So here are the freebies. But like if you use up, exactly. Like if you use up your freebies though, then that like look, I built the rachamim into the system. Yeah, that's rachamim b'din. Okay, all right. So then let's go. So do we have a? So I guess the question, and I don't even know if this is a legitimate question. I feel like that's a lot of pesukim for an idea that is not so chiddushi. I feel like it's not satisfying my like. Oh, that's why we need all of this. Well, it's not like I disagree with the idea.
You could have said, Hakar Mishpat, Kivu Amim, and then Vlamochichim,
yeah,
and then that's one pasuk.
Right. Also, I feel like he was drawing our attention to the fact that the previous rebukes were for the son and the student, and this is for the judges and the teacher. But then he doesn't really elaborate on that application of like people who are teaching, Yeah.
We just say that judgment is a unique position, such that when you're constantly dealing with the fate of other people, there's just a very strong temptation to make everybody feel good and to try and do things that are going to. It very much is a specific power thing that influences people a lot. Yeah. And so it needs to be very flowerful in its language in order to really convey the idea.
Yeah, we can definitely say that. And again, I do sense that the Aleihim Tavu Birkas Tov and Saim Yishak and Yinam, all these this is what these people in these positions of power want. They want approval and they want, these brachos from people, and they can get it, but not through cutting corners and cheating and like messing with judgment. It has to be through the fulfilling their role correctly. Yeah.
Well, what does the last pasuk add to this? I feel like you could delete it.
Right. Well, one thing it is doing is it is articulating the opposite of hakir panim is meshiv dvarim nechochim. The way he's saying it is one who like delivers true verdicts, you know, and that's the measure of the good judge. So I think it is beneficial to articulate that, like the true judgment is what's going to get you the favor, not the being mazake this guy and being machai of that guy, you know. But maybe there's a better answer, but I agree with Sean's approach. Like this is, you know, for rhetorical effect.
You could say that there is a parallelism between him saying this, right, which is a action of the lips, and then the actual, and he's trying to get favor versus the real action of the lips. The kissing is going to come about through the
actual judge, right? Okay, that's good. I want to just also mention that, you know, we have to remember that Mishlei's role, one of Mishlei's roles is to explain the Torah and to make it accessible. And if you go to the pesukim that we went to in the Torah and said, why is it important? Why should you as a judge correctly? You'd say, oh, because that's in line with Hashem's will, or that's in line with justice. Again, this is classic Mishlei. Why should you do this? Because then people will like you, right? And you have to realize, I want people to like me. And that if you don't consciously identify that desire, that will lead you to violate the Torah. And if you consciously realize, no, you want people to like you, that's what the Torah is trying to get. If you follow the Torah in this regard, you will get people to like you. And then, eventually you'll develop and you'll do it because of God's justice. But this is a Mishleic motive. I think that's important to recognize. Yaakov first, and then David.
Yeah, I find it kind of surprising how far Favdala goes in spelling the consequences.
Yeah.
Okay, if I were a judge in this position, I think, sure, maybe this is going to corrupt society a little bit. Like some people are going to find out and hate me.
Yeah.
It seems like it's completely universal and widespread. Like nations and regimes cursing out.
Yeah. So that I think fits in well with Sean's approach, because I think you need that on the opposite side also. Like I could totally destroy my reputation as a judge if I'm found to be if I'm found out to be doing this, you know, and like you need that like catastrophizing type presentation of the consequences in order to like really, because again, here you're dealing with one instance of this could bring you down as a judge, you know, or destroy the system. Yeah,
to the point you were saying about Mishlei's speaking to someone who's looking for people to like them.
Yeah,
especially in this situation, I think the reason why you would like very much the Avamida, you would specifically sway the judgment because you figure that's what people are going to like you.
Yeah.
By showing this favor, and it's exactly not that.
Right.
So you're getting from doing things wrong.
Yeah.
Is you're going to get the
exactly. That's the what Ken and I call the Mishlei Kneged Mida. I would also mention, by the way, that I think for your I mean, this is true for all of us, but I think several of you are in positions like this. I think when you are in a position where of leadership or where you have to make judgments with people who are close to your age, like who are your peers, then this temptation could be especially great because they're your friends or whatever, or like you realize like, oh, I'm not so different than them, you know, and like you have to stay the course, you know, and realize that you know, as tempting as it is, it's eventually going to come back to bite you in these ways, you know.
So what's the chiddush again? I'm still missing
the chiddush is that that if you're a judge who wants approval, then don't get it by messing with your judgment to find particular approvals here. The way that judges get approval is by being in line with justice and truth. Yeah. I want to skip the next part of the Meiri because he does a good interpretation of the last pasuk on its own. Look at Yesh Mefarshim. It's just after the derech nister, which by the way, it's not a very, I don't understand this derech nister. It doesn't seem like a nister thing. If we have time, we'll look at it. Yesh Mefarshim Sifasayim Yishak Shehu Inyan Bifnei Atma. Some say that lips will kiss is its own idea. Someone who wants to respond truthfully. Okay, so he's saying like this. Anyone who listened to my Pirkei Avos shiur on Thursday about siag l'chacham shtika, this is another good application of this. This is advice to a chacham. When people ask him something, sheyisgor safasav, he should close his lips v'yishakim zo b'zo, and he should purse them together. Ad sheyivchan b'libo ech yashiv, until he discerns in his heart how to respond. V'lo yihi nivha lahashiv, he shouldn't be quick to respond. Ki hanivha lahashiv berov ha'pa'amim lo yihu devarav nechochim, because someone who's quick to respond many times will not speak truthfully. Okay, so what I like about this is you can give this advice of think before you speak. Okay, and I'm just going to quote from the Rambam himself in Hilchos Deos, chapter 2, halacha 6, in the halachos of shtika. What?
I'm just joking.
This is getting slow.
I was just saying she just says shut your mouth.
Oh, okay. I won't pretend to laugh because I don't want to show you favoritism. Okay.
Oh, but then it's social favoritism.
Okay. He says, oops, I went too far. Yeah, here we go. Siag l'chachma shtika, lefikach lo yimaher lahashi. So this is advice for teachers. He learns siag l'chachma shtika, by the way, as if you are a teacher who wants to convey chachma, then you should have shtika as a siag. So how so? You should not be quick to respond, v'lo yarbe l'daber, and you should not speak excessively. V'yilamid l'talmidim b'shuva v'nachas. You should teach your students tranquilly and pleasantly, below tzaka, without shouting, below arichos lashon, and without verbosity. I totally violate all of these, by the way. I really got to work on all of this. It's bad. Shlomo Omer divrei chachamim v'nachas nishmaim. Koheles says the words of chacham are heard with gentleness. Okay, so what does the mean? So you have this Rambam who says don't be quick to respond. The problem is it's difficult. So what I like about this Meiri is he's saying he's giving you there's got to be a name for the strategy, a strategy for physically ensuring that you do this. Okay, it's like if you are, let's say not that I've ever been in this situation, but let's say like you are a parent who is quick to smack your kid or whatever, if you said, okay, when my kid is angry at me, I'm going to put my hands in my pockets, there's certain things you could do physically to prevent yourself from giving into the temptation to react impulsively. So I think this is a good, we talked about Rabbi Foreman's wait time with responses, that you should wait a full couple seconds before responding. Telling you to physically purse your lips is just an interesting way to have a physical siag for the reaction. I got to try it and see if it works. Because again, I definitely have this problem that you can see it, you can hear it. So feel free to rebuke me on this, is I will start to respond even before the person is finished talking. And it's coming from a good place. It's because I'm excited, but also will prevent me from hearing them or from giving from deliberating on what they're saying.
So we should point it out.
Yeah, not in shiur, but afterwards. Yeah.
I have a derech, sir.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
And then we got to stop.
So I'd say stop. But I think the perverting judgment will be perverting the judgment of your mind.
Okay.
Where something that you know is not true, but you want to favor it in some way or say pronounce it true. And you think it's going to be fine to do that, but really that's very destructive. And I don't know exactly what the first nations pursue is, but that but if you are firm with it, firm with what's true in your mind, even though you really don't like it, that actually will help you run away, that you'll get a lot of really good consequences and you get reckless hope,
Okay, I like the approach. Yeah. I just want to say, without reading it, what I don't like about the Meiri's approach, it's not that I don't like the idea for his derech nisser, it's not consistent with me. Okay, I'm just going to read it short. Derech nisser, efshar sharamas b'zeh al shleimus hamidos. It's possible this is talking about perfection of midos. And says, shemitaxis hachacham lahochiach hanechshalim b'midos haraos. That one of the literally procedures of a chacham, one of the standards of conduct of a chacham is to rebuke those who stumble in bad midos. And I think he means not just to rebuke when someone does an avera, but even in bad midos, he'll rebuke people. And he will not show them favoritism to cover up those bad midos. Mishpat here means moderation. Okay, not judgment. It's saying someone who praises the acts of a rasha will be disgusting in the eyes of people. But someone who rebukes with open rebuke will find favor, will be, find pleasantness. He'll even be loved by the one who he rebukes. Ilu noshik svasav, is if he kissed his lips. So what I don't get about this is I don't understand how this is derech nister. Like, to me, this seems like a nigleh. So it's not the idea. I feel like it makes me feel like I'm missing something in the derech nister. Maybe because it's perfection of midos, but I don't know. Okay, sorry. I don't think it's a type of this. No. So there's just, I know you're joking, but like it is important to know, by the way, when you're doing different texts, which texts are subject to corruption and why. Like I was recently rereading about why there are so many typos in certain editions and certain mefarshim and certain like books, and it has to do with, you have to, like, even going into the history of like the printing press and when this was printed and why. It's important to know that, and you should know the Meiri on Mishlei is a very like reliable text, so that's just knowing that. So there's certain texts that I would be quicker to say that there's a typo on, like Rabbeinu Yonah and Avos, but other ones not so much. Okay, all right.
Where were you reading that?
I was reading it when I was giving my Sunday shiur, and I was talking about the fake minhas on Mishlei.
Yeah.
The beginning of the Torah's Chaim always gives a blurb on like which manuscripts they use and like why certain things are and what the procedures are for like fixing things. So it's good to know.
Thank you.
Yeah.